Okay, very well. So, yesterday we were um mm, mm, talking about simple past versus present perfect, right? One moment. Okay, yeah, we were checking these stories. So, well, let's watch the video from for this unit in order to start. Let's watch the video of this unit.
Once upon a time, there was a group of funny little creatures called humans, and they loved stories. They had begun telling stories on the walls of caves in the dark. The next thing they knew, they were writing their stories down so they could tell them over and over. Though lately, they've started telling stories on walls in the dark again. Even when they became older and smarter and figured out a whole lot more about the world around them, they still craved their stories. But why? What has made their stories so important? It all started one day, probably when the human race was still very young. Maybe one human, let's call him Larry, had gone to the river to get some water, and he fell in a hole. He was surprised because he had been going to the river for years, and before that day, there was no hole. As soon as he climbed out, he thought, I've got to tell my friends about this so they won't fall in the hole. I know, I'll put up a sign. Then he thought, but wait, we haven't invented writing yet. So he went back to his friends and told them a story, the first story, of how he fell in the hole. And from that point on, nobody went near the hole. They understood they should stay away, even though they themselves had not fallen in the hole. To make a long story short, the humans continued telling stories. But soon their stories weren't just about holes by the river. They were about how other people lived. They were able to understand how other people felt and what other people knew. And that helped them get along better and survive. What's the moral of this story? Humans love stories because stories help them survive. Professor Roger Evans had been teaching rocket science for 20 years. The same theories, the same formulas, year after year. His classes had become pretty dull. I have to do something different, he thought. And so the next day, rather than explaining his theories, he started telling stories about the courage of astronauts, the danger of blastoffs, and how the theories and formulas helped all that happen. And in the end, Professor Evans realized he had succeeded in getting his students interested again. He understood that stories are the most natural way for humans to learn anything, because stories engage the emotions as well as the intellect, and humans remember things better when emotion is involved. Imagine you're a very young child. You've been watching the world, but it doesn't make sense. It's all a big mess of information, with lots of strange shapes. But lately, people have been telling you stories. And after a time, you have started to make sense of the world. Things seem clearer. So later on, when you get older, you will still go back to stories when you want to make sense of the world. There are many other reasons we humans have been telling stories since the dawn of time. But really, the thing you have to know is, humans will always find new ways to tell stories and new stories to tell. Because telling stories is part of what makes us who we are.
Okay, so this is the video from the unit. Remember we saw 3 stories yesterday, and yeah, it's true, like you're always interested about stories, gossips, is what we like, right? It's what we want to hear. And well, we're going to continue. We're going to check the next um the next thing is present perfect versus the simple past. Yesterday we checked some differences, right? And let's go back to the stories. All right. So for example, let's see. Okay. So here we have, for example, the present perfect. She has created dozens of paintings. Do you remember the sea lion, El León Marino? Do you remember?
Yes, teacher.
Yeah. Okay. Very well. So the sea lion, she was painting, right? So here we have, she has created dozens of paintings. Here they're not saying when this happened. You're saying that she did something. She has created dozens of paintings. Ha creado decenas de pinturas, muchas pinturas. Then I started teaching her to paint last year. Empecé a enseñarle a pintar el año pasado. Okay, so here I have last year. Last year shows that you completed something in the past. Completaste algo en el pasado. Yeah. And you know when it happened. Y aquí se menciona cuándo sucedió. Entonces aquí utilizamos pasado simple. Okay. What else? Let's check another example. After a day at the mall, the woman went out to her car, right? Después de un día en el centro comercial, la mujer salió o fue hacia su auto. So here I have after a day at the mall. All right. When she saw them still in ignition, cuando ella vio que el carro aún estaba encendido. Okay. Then you have this other sentence. I've totally stopped worrying about my keys now. Ahora me he dejado de preocupar acerca de mis llaves. Aunque hablo de now, no se refiere realmente a un tiempo en concreto, right? But here she uses, I've lost my keys in the car. He dejado mis llaves dentro del auto. She's not using any tense, so she doesn't use simple past, but present perfect. So now we're going to check these exercises and let's use present perfect or simple past. Okay, so let's go. Let's start from here. You can see a group of thieves has stolen. Aquí tengo el verbo pero voy a tener que escoger ya sea pasado simple o presente perfecto. So it says, a group of thieves has stolen, ha robado, the dragon's eye, el ojo del dragón, ruby from the Grand Gallery, una gema de la Gran Galería. Ok, aquí no dice cuándo ha sido robado, ¿no? Bueno, lo dice después. But in this sentence, you don't have when this happened. It doesn't say yesterday, it doesn't say last day, last year, last week, right? So that's why we use the present perfect. Now, let's continue reading, and you have to choose go off or has gone off. Vamos a escoger si este es pasado simple o presente perfecto. Please, Nubia, can you read it?
Last night about 1 a.m., the alarm went off.
Mhm. The alarm went off. Exactly. Muy bien. La noche anterior a cerca de la 1 de la mañana. Okay, so here I have the time, right? When this happened. So it's last night about 1 a.m. So I use simple past. The alarm went off. Muy bien. Vamos a continuar, por favor, Reina. Police.
Police rushed to the building immediately.
Okay. But remember, we pronounce rushed. Todos los verbos que terminen en ed, no vamos a pronunciar la ed, right? Just the d. So you would say police rushed to the building immediately. Can you repeat, please?
Police rushed to the building immediately.
Yes. Okay. So here we have when it says immediately, inmediatamente. Yeah. So rushed. But they were too late. Pero llegaron muy tarde. Ok, ¿por qué were? Bueno, porque como tenemos un conector que es but, right? Este but hace que el tiempo que utilizaste antes sea el mismo que tengas que utilizar después de but. So, but is the connector, right? So basically, we need to use the same tense. If you use simple past here, so here you use simple past too. Okay. So it says, right after learning of the robbery, the major, Novia, please, number 5.
The mayor set up a telephone hotline.
Yes, set up. Very well. The major setup. ¿Por qué? Porque tenemos aquí right after learning of the robbery. Justo después de enterarse. Aquí learning no es aprender, es enterarse. All right, es otro significado que tiene learn. Justo después de enterarse del robo. Entonces tenemos un tiempo específico, right? So, but that's why we use with the simple past. A telephone hotline for information about the theft. Let's see the next one. Please. I don't remember. He's Reina, right? 3 people.
2 people have called. So far, the police are still looking for further information.
Good. Have called. Ok, porque no tenemos un tiempo en el que ellos llamaron. No nos dice cuándo llamaron, right? It says only 3 people have called so far. So far means hasta el momento. O sea, no sabemos cuándo han llamado, solo que han llamado. Por eso, presente perfecto. Okay. They believe it is probable that the thieves have left the city. Hayan dejado. Fíjense que esto no existe en español, pero en inglés, la diferencia entre hayan. Em, Esto es una forma que ah, eh, se llama subjuntivo. Es una forma que se llama subjuntivo o un modo que se llama subjuntivo, que lo puedes utilizar para hablar acerca de suposiciones. Y aquí, por ejemplo, la oración dice, ellos creen que es probable que los ladrones hayan dejado la ciudad, que este realmente puede ser otro uso del presente perfecto, es decir, estamos hablando aquí de una posibilidad. They're not sure, they believe something is true. Pero esta oración no se traduce como han dejado, sino hayan dejado. Yeah, let's see another example. Ok, en la oración que les puse aquí en el chat, I don't believe this can be true. Bueno, podríamos traducir, no creo que esto es verdad. Pero en español, como estoy hablando de cerca de lo que yo creo, entonces sería mejor. No creo que esto pueda ser verdad. No pueda ser verdad. Esto en español se llama, es un modo subjuntivo, subjunctive. Es un poco complejo, pero en inglés, aunque se entiende de la misma forma, no existe un tiempo distinto. Y en español sí lo tenemos. Entonces, pues el español es bastante complicado en ese aspecto, ¿no? De la gramática, hay muchas formas gramaticales que dan otro matiz. So, here we have this. Summarizing, aquí la única razón por la que pongo have left es porque no menciona cuándo los ladrones dejaron la ciudad, sino que simplemente la han dejado. ¿Ya? Let's check the next one. Please, Nubia.
The curator of the Grand Gallery offered 50,000 reward for information leading to the capture of the thieves.
Okay, thank you. So can you repeat? Offer, has offered.
Offered. No, has offered.
Has offered. Ha ofrecido. Porque no dice cuándo lo ofreció. Yeah. So present perfect. Okay. So any questions? Do you have questions about this
Sí,
topic
yo,
or yeah?
por ejemplo, algo que siempre me ha causado confusión es porque, pues, en español sí decimos, han ofrecido 50 millones, ¿no? Ah, no, pero también decimos, ofrecieron, entonces, ¿cuál es el? Ahí luego es cuando me confundo porque no sé cuál es el mejor, el han ofrecido o ofrecieron, o cómo quedaría,
Ha
cómo
ofrecido o
escogerla mejor.
ofreció.
Ajá,
Simple past or present perfect, right?
sí,
Sí, cuando
o
es
sea,
utilizar
sí,
pasado
siempre ese
simple
es
o
mi,
presente perfecto.
sí, hay ocasiones en que sí queda, ¿no? Porque, por ejemplo, no, no, hay ocasiones en las que yo siento que sí es como que es un poquito más obvio que sí queda, pero hay un poquito de veces donde digo, sí me confundo.
Ujú. Okay, if we
Entiendo
are
que es esa parte,
ujú.
ajá, ¿no? Sí, ajá.
If we're strict to the grammar, to what we learned, all of these sentences has the characteristic about the time. That's the important thing to decide if we use simple past or present perfect. If we know when these things happen, si sabemos cuándo sucedieron esas cosas. En todos los ejemplos con presente perfecto, no nos mencionan cuándo, ¿no? No se dice en la noche anterior, no dice ayer. So that's when we use present perfect. Present perfect is when you have an event that happened at that indefinite time, un evento que sucedió en un tiempo indefinido, o sea que el contexto no es necesario mencionar cuándo pasó para hablar de ese evento pasado, right? When you know when it happened, cuando sabes cuándo sucedió, utilizas simple past. Que por ejemplo aquí dice, el guardia de la galería ha ofrecido 50,000. ¿Por qué ha ofrecido y no ofreció? Porque ofreció sería, si somos estrictos, cuando se menciona cuándo sucedió, ¿ya? We have to have yesterday, ¿cuándo lo ofreció? Ayer, la semana pasada, no menciona, ¿ya? Por esa razón no escogemos pasado simple. That's the reason. Do you understand this?
Mm, ya.
Yeah? Okay. But yeah, it's true. And it depends on the person, right? Esto también es algo de donde estemos hablando. En España, por ejemplo, acostumbran más a utilizar el presente perfecto que el pasado simple. Por ejemplo, en vez de decir ya comí, nosotros diríamos en México ya comí. Ellos dirían ya he comido o me he enterado. Y nosotros diríamos me enteré, escuché, he escuchado. Ajá. En España es más de esta forma, utilizar el presente perfecto en situaciones que a lo mejor utilizamos solo el pasado simple, o regularmente solo utilizamos el pasado simple, ¿sí? Entonces, en inglés es parecido. El inglés británico puede utilizar más el presente perfecto como un sinónimo del pasado simple. Example, si algo pasó recientemente, tú puedes decir, I just had dinner. Or I just ate something. Acabo de comer algo. Eso sería la forma americana. I have just eaten something sería la forma británica. Es decir, el presente perfecto también puede ser un sinónimo del pasado simple, porque es lo mismo decir yo acabo de comer y yo he acabado de comer. It's just other way of saying. It's different way, but it's the same. This example is when something is recent, cuando algo acaba de pasar. But we also have examples when, I don't know, anything. For example, I have found the key to happiness. Acabo de encontrar la clave de la felicidad. Bueno, de hecho, no, ni siquiera acabo, he encontrado la clave de la felicidad. Y un americano, por ejemplo, diría, I found the key to happiness. En estos ejemplos donde realmente el cuándo no nos interesa más que la acción en sí, puedes utilizar el presente perfecto como sinónimo del pasado, porque da lo mismo decir, me he caído, que me caí. Ya. I fell, I have fallen. En estos casos, bueno, presente perfecto, igual que en la oración como Reina dijo, y number 8, has offered, ha ofrecido, daría lo mismo también quitar el has y utilizar pasado simple. Ajá, ofreció. Ok. in these cases. But sometimes, like, look, 3 people have called so far. 3 personas han llamado hasta el momento. No puedo decir 3 personas llamaron hasta el momento, no es lo mejor. Porque al decir so far, estoy hablando de un periodo de tiempo en el que algo sucedió o no sucedió. So in this case, it's good to use the present perfect because we say, no me han llamado. Suena más natural que decir, no me llamaron, ¿no? So in this case, we also have last night about 1 a.m. Aquí tengo un tiempo preciso en el que esto sucedió. So it is last night about 1 a.m. The alarm went off. So it's not correct to say has gone off because you have a definite time. Hay un tiempo definido, entonces no sonaría bien decir la noche pasada la alarma se ha ido. O más bien no went off es como se activó, pero se ha activado. Tú dirías la alarma se ha activado simplemente para informar a otra persona, aunque la tenía que preguntar cuándo. When this happened? The alarm has gone off. When did the alarm go off? The alarm went off last night. Yeah. So, any questions about this? ¿Alguien tiene alguna duda?
No, teacher.
No? Excellent. Very well. Let's see. So let's check some exercises. Let's work on 4 of them. Okay, Reina, can you help me read number 1? Let's just read and then you give me the answer, please.
Painting the bedroom yet? Not yet. I'll finish it tomorrow. Ah, mm, ¿has terminado? ¿Terminaste? Ah,
What do you think?
have you finished? Finished.
Have you finished? Yes. ¿Has terminado de pintar el cuarto aún? Yeah. Have you finished painting the bedroom yet? Okay, not yet. Also, these kind of words like yet indicate the use of the present perfect. Okay. Number 2, please, Nubia.
I didn't earn much last year, but I've earned a lot this year.
Yes. Aquí tenemos last year y this year, aunque el último sería I've earned. No gané mucho el año anterior. El año anterior ya terminó, pero este año no ha terminado. Entonces, this year, me estoy refiriendo al periodo de tiempo, pero no a un punto en el tiempo. ¿Right? Entonces, estoy diciendo, no gané mucho el año pasado, pero he ganado mucho este año. O sea, a lo que llevo de este año. ¿Ya? So that's why you use simple past here because last year is something that finished and this year is still ongoing. All right. Number 3, please rate.
Have you had a holiday recently?
Yes. Have you had a holiday recently? Excellent. Have you had a holiday recently? Number 4, please, Nubia.
We arrived last week. We have been here for 5 days.
Yes, very well. Okay, so now let's check some vocabulary. It's not only about grammar. When you tell stories, you need to have some vocabulary to tell stories.
Una pregunta.
Yes?
Entonces, como ese ejemplo, si nos referimos a una actividad del pasado, una actividad más o menos como que sí dice, como esa que decía el año pasado, pero que ya terminó, sí se ocupa el present perfect.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry. Can you repeat again? Please.
Sí, es una actividad como la que decía el ejercicio, que sí dice el tiempo, el año pasado, pero que ya terminó, sí se ocupa el present perfect.
So there is a simple past? Yes. Yes. Sí, bueno, last year no se trata tanto a lo mejor de un indicador de tiempo, sino un indicador de tiempo del pasado, ¿no? Last year ya terminó. Entonces, es pasado simple. This year, a lo mejor también es una palabra que indica tiempo, pero no está en el pasado. Este año es el presente, ¿no? Por lo tanto, no puedo utilizar pasado con this year. Ujú. Puedes decir lo que has hecho a lo largo de este año, ¿no? Por ejemplo, I have worked hard this year. He trabajado duro este año. Pero el año no ha acabado. No puedes decir trabajé duro este año, porque el año no acaba todavía. ¿Ya? Is it clear? Is that what you wanted to know?
Ya, gracias.
Yes, okay. Very well. Okay, so let's see. Sometimes you need to tell your story. I don't know how good you are at telling stories. We all tell gossip sometimes, right? But when you have an ability to share your stories about the past to a person, we don't know. It could be for because you're telling the story to a person, a gossip. Puede ser algo insignificante como decirle la historia o un chisme a otra persona. But sometimes there are very important things. For example, maybe you need to tell a report to the police. Quizá tengas que darle un reporte a un oficial de policía. Or maybe you have a job interview. And the job interview, well, it's about your past. Most of it, right? Una entrevista de trabajo trata acerca de tus habilidades, tu desempeño pasado, todo tu pasado, right? So that's why it's important to be able to tell the stories. Here we're going to check just some vocabulary that we use to tell the stories. Please join this Kahoot so we can start and check this activity together. Okay, let's start. Elements of the story. What do we call the main character? Protagonist. Yeah. Character is personaje, yeah, right? Character. The events leading to the climax are called los eventos que dirigen al clímax de la historia. They are called. And well, plot is what the story is about. ¿De qué trata la trama? Yeah, plot is trama. Sequence of events, secuencia de eventos, sería rise in action, the events leading to the climax, right? I don't know, like maybe there is a war, so the war is the climax, but the rise in action is when I don't know, they find the spice. You know, like a little bit climaxes that are before. Okay, very well. El tiempo y lugar donde la historia ocurre. Setting. Excellent. Cuando el personaje principal resuelve el conflicto o tiene una, ¿cómo se llama? Realization, como que se da cuenta. Ok, como que alcanza, ¿cómo se llama realization? Realize es darse cuenta. Realization sería como una comprensión, cuando alcanza una comprensión. Es the resolution, you know, it's like ya cuando se acaba el problema y todos empiezan a bailar o a abrazarse o a no sé, this is the resolution of the conflict, ¿ya? Ya cuando se resuelve el problema y todos viven felices para siempre. Muy bien, plot. Es la secuencia de eventos que crean la historia. Muy bien. So, la trama, right? Events that occurred after the conflict are called. I think you can call it conclusion or fall in action. When rise in action es antes del climax. El climax es el punto del conflicto. So after this would be like fall in action. Or conclusion. Yeah, it would be true. Okay. Last question. Very well. Antagonist. The enemy, right? So those are very good elements to remember when you tell the story. Now let's check some examples of stories. So usually for movies, novels,
Start at the
maybe
very
you like
beginning.
any of them.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 origin stories of all time. For this list, we're looking at the most compelling origin stories across all media, including film, television, comics, video games, and anime. Since some of these backstories tie into plot twists, a spoiler alert is in order. Number 20, Walter White, Breaking Bad. When we first meet Walter White, his brilliant mind is being squandered on disrespectful high school students. Unable to even command a classroom, Walt is the last person you'd expect to build a meth empire. Just as chemistry is the study of change, however, Walt evolves, as creator Vince Gilligan put it, from, quote, Mr. Chips to Scarface.
But you know the business. And I know the chemistry. I'm thinking maybe you and I could partner up.
It all begins when Walt is diagnosed with lung cancer. To secure his family's financial future, Walt dedicates his final years to the drug trade. By the final episode, though, the Walt we met at the beginning of this story resurfaces, bringing his transformation full circle.
I liked it. I was good at it.
Number 19, The Elric Brothers, the Full Metal Alchemist franchise. The origins of Edward and Alphonse Elric are grounded in elements of science fiction, horror, and dark fantasy. Above all else, their backstory is all about the bonds of family and the lengths some will go to preserve them.
You know, there might be a way we could bring Mom back.
But I thought it said in all the books that using alchemy to make people is something you're not supposed to do ever.
That's right. That's why it'll be our secret.
When their mother passes away, the Elric brothers attempt to resurrect her through alchemy. The human transmutation doesn't go as planned, costing Edward his left leg and Alphonse his whole body.
Damn it! This can't be happening!
To save his brother, Edward gives up his right arm in exchange for Al's soul and encapsulates it in a suit of armor. The brothers lose a piece of their childhood innocence they can't get back. They can restore their bodies, however, and so they set off on a coming-of-age journey to find the Philosopher's Stone. Number 18, Demona, Gargoyles. Few villains in the Disney pantheon are as nuanced as Demona, whose full backstory is revealed over the course of 4 epic episodes. As tensions rise between humans and gargoyles, Demona
Do you like anime?
Yes, a little bit.
Yes. What is your favorite anime? Let's say your favorite anime or your favorite series.
Well, there is an anime called, I don't know in English, but in Spanish is La Visión de Escaflón. I like it.
Okay. It's action, it's romance, it's mystery. What genre?
It's about a war, but in an alternative dimension.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's interesting. I like science
Yes.
fiction.
Yes, it's a girl that lives in the earth, but for an strange situation, she wakes up in another planet.
Mm,
But always she had visions
yeah.
about that planet, about that people, and that's a little bit strange, but I like.
Well, I like science fiction too. My case, I like series. My favorite series, I think, is Lost. Lost, Doctor Who, The 100, what else? I like The Outlander. These are series that are all about science fiction in one way or another. But I really like when it has some science, when it has some creativity, imagination, and good characters too. Well, there's also some stories like more classic. Some people don't like The Godfather, for example.
Depicted as a powerful yet aging man who's lived a full life.
I'm gonna make him an
Great
offer he
story.
can't refuse.
We see that full life in part 2, which commences with 9-year-old Vito Andolini watching his mother die at the hands of Don Chicho. Immigrating to America as Vito Corleone, this little boy matures into a small-time criminal who eventually takes out a local don. Vito emerges as one of the most respected and feared figures in New York, while simultaneously being a loving family man. With this newfound authority, Vito returns to Sicily to settle the score with the man who killed his mother. An untouchable gangster who came from nothing, Vito represents everything great about the American dream, as well as that dream's darker potential. Number 10. Gollum, the Middle-earth franchise. Across all Middle-earth, you won't find a more tragic figure than Gollum. This twisted creature was once a Storish hobbit named Smeagol, who, one ill-fated birthday, lost himself to the One Ring. When the ring was discovered by his relative Deagle, Smeagol quickly resorted to murder to possess it. Smeagol was possessed, however, succumbing to the ring's power and receiving the nickname Gollum. Banished to the Misty Mountains, Gollum spent his days coveting the ring until it fell into the hands of Bilbo Baggins. When Gollum does finally catch up with the ring, he finds himself torn between his unquenchable obsession and what's left of Smeagol. Gollum's story sadly isn't one of redemption, but at least he leaves the world clutching his precious. Number 9. The Wicked Witch of the West, also known.
Okay, now there are some other interesting stories that you would like to tell, right? It's all about, everything that makes us humans. We like entertainment. We also have our side where we need to check work, right? So, for example, at a job interview. All right. So we're going to check some of these and we are going to learn tomorrow how to make as a CV and how to prepare for a job interview, which is very interesting. Las entrevistas donde requieren el inglés, tu primer filtro va a ser la conversación, ¿ya? I have seen this like in real practice, en la práctica real. A lo mejor te van a decir, bueno, un certificado está bien, pero la entrevista va a ser en inglés y es normal. Es decir, si quieres que una persona se desempeñe en un puesto donde va a utilizar el inglés, pues lo mejor es entrevistarla en inglés. Yeah, that's the smartest thing to do. And how do we prepare for these questions? Let's check. And I've seen that so many good, there are so many good opportunities at work because you speak English. Y si hablas un buen nivel de inglés, te va a ayudar bastante. Let's check. So there you have the next one. Tell me about yourself. Pues tell me about yourself. It looks like a question that is in past, but it's actually about the present. So what do we answer in such questions? ¿Qué diríamos? Tell me about yourself. A lo mejor no vamos a decir, bueno, me gustan las mascotas, los perritos y voy a la iglesia los domingos, right? So that's we need to check like what kind of things we can say in a job interview. Walk me through your resume. Resume es otra forma de decir el CV. Háblame acerca de tu currículum, right? So you need to tell them basically, o sea, ellos ya lo tienen, pero quieren que lo expliques. The reason is, well, one of the reasons is that if you are not sure about what you wrote on your CV, it will be no, se va a saber si no tienes si registe la verdad o no en tu CV, o simplemente hiciste como un copy-paste de otro CV. How did you hear about this position? Una pregunta en pasado. ¿Cómo escuchaste acerca de esta oferta laboral? Why do you want to work at this company? ¿Por qué quieres trabajar en esta compañía? Why do you want this job? ¿Por qué quieres trabajar? Why should we hire you? You know, actually the best answer to any of these questions is to keep it simple. La respuesta más simple muchas veces es la mejor en estos casos. We're going to check tomorrow the answers. Mañana vamos a concentrarnos cómo contestar estas preguntas. Why should we hire you? ¿Por qué deberíamos contratarte y no a los otros 10 currículum personas que han venido? So you need to give a good reason, right? Why they should hire you. What can you bring to the company? ¿Qué puedes aportar a la empresa? What are your greatest strengths? ¿Cuáles son tus más grandes fortalezas? ¿Cuáles son tus debilidades? What is your greatest professional achievement? ¿Cuál es tu logro profesional? Tu más grande logro profesional. Esto es muy importante porque aquí, por ejemplo, vamos a utilizar presente perfecto. Y vamos a comentar sobre cosas que hemos hecho en nuestra vida profesional, pero no cuándo exactamente, ¿no? Sino solamente comentar un poco de nuestros logros. Entonces, aquí tenemos ejemplos donde utilizamos pasado simple y presente perfecto. Tomorrow we're going to check how to prepare a CV, cómo hacer un CV. I will give you my example, les voy a mostrar un ejemplo de mi propio CV. Y vamos a ver también cómo contestar preguntas en una entrevista de trabajo utilizando pasado simple y presente perfecto. So, thank you so much for joining. We'll have to leave for now. Take care. See you.